Hello and welcome to the Fandoms Edge podcast with your host Joe and the annoying mouse droid we almost tripped on, Tom. That will be me. Hi Joe, how we doing?
Hello Tom. Yeah, I'm good mate, I'm good. I've had a very busy weekend.
Yeah, so have I. I've been standing all day today because I've been to the car show. My bottom half is knackered, but my voice is still working.
I feel you man, I feel you.
Right, yeah, Fandoms Edge podcast. We're gonna start with a little bit about us, as this is the first podcast that you're all listening to. Fandoms Edge, we're all about all our different fandoms, Star Wars, Doctor Who. We're going to be going all through that and more today. So we're going to be going through some Star Wars, about a new RTS. Going to go talk about some Jedi Survivor. We're going to talk about some bad performances in gaming, some new releases in gaming, about the Transformers and Discord changing usernames and more, all to come throughout the next hour or so.
Very exciting.
Yes, so Joe, introduce yourself to the people.
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Joe. Some of you may know me from the streaming channel FamilarForce. I've been doing FamilarForce since August 2015, so coming up on 8 years, which is insane to think about. I tend to stream a variety of games, a lot of focus on simulators because I've got a real passion for them. And yeah, I mean, I'm a massive nerd. I love a bit of D&D. I play Warhammer 40k, and yeah, I mean, I've been playing video games since I was knee high. This is going to be a lot of fun. I think talking about many different topics and sharing our interests. I love it. It's definitely a bit of me.
Yeah, brilliant. Now me, I have another name. It is Maverick, over from the Maverick Gaming channel. Now I started that channel in 2020. I've not been doing videos since 2020. I've been doing them from a lot longer because I had a YouTube channel with my friends from high school. So I've been making videos for a while. I started streaming last year when I got an internet upgrade, and I am fully into gaming. Like you, Joe, I have been playing games basically all my life. I love cars, and therefore I love racing games, so my channel tends to have a racing and simulation focus. I do play a variety because a lot of my friends, they play a lot of shooters, and therefore I play a lot of shooters just to basically be a bit more involved with gaming with them. So I have a bit of a variety in terms of how I game. And Star Wars, I would say, is the biggest fandom outside gaming for me as well. It's definitely out there. I remember when my dad asked me, it was for I don't know what it was. I remember it was a supermarket when I was very, very young, and it was just a case of Star Wars or Star Trek. That was the question. I didn't have any context, and I said Star Wars because it sounded the best, in my opinion. I thought Star Wars, that seems exciting, rather than Star Trek. I was like, and that's how I got into Star Wars. I think it was to do with a video game because I was getting my first console for myself, which was the Game Boy Advance SP, and I got the original Lego Star Wars game, like a really original one that went through episode 3.
Oh.
Yeah, that one. The OG one, the very original one. Yeah.
I remember that game.
I still have the box, by the way. I still have it.
Oh, yeah?
And the cartridge, yeah. And the little instruction guide. I love it.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, so that's my intro into Star Wars and into all that kind of stuff, and I've loved every single piece of Star Wars content that's come out ever since. So, massive nerds. I have all the consoles in front of me. I've got my Switch, I've got the PC, I've got the PS5. I have the holy trinity of gaming. Okay, shall we start off with the first thing that we have planned to
I'm
talk
here
about?
for it.
So,
I'm here for it. Hit me.
am I correct, Joe, that you like Star Wars, right?
I love Star Wars. Just like you, I've always had a passion for it.
Yeah. And you like your good strategy RTS games as well, don't you?
I like the odd RTS, yeah.
Yeah. Now, if we combine them together, you obviously get Star Wars Empire at War, which you have a few hours in, yes?
Fantastic strategy game with an incredible modding community.
Yes. So, I want your reaction on this. What if I told you there was a rumour that there will be an upcoming RTS Star Wars game. Your reaction, go.
See, you can't see me right now, but I am the shut up and take my money meme. Because I'm ready to sell my soul for this game. I've heard a rumour about this as well. I've seen someone talk about it on the YouTubes. I'm so here for it. I'm so here for it. I've been playing the original Empire at War for a while now.
Yeah.
I didn't get it when it first came out. I never really got into it. It was only, God, many years after it came out, I saw some videos on some mods for it. And that was what sold me. So for any of you listening that may not have played the original, it was a real-time strategy set during the Galactic Civil War, so Empire versus Rebels. And in itself, pretty good game. I don't really know anything like it. There's a space element and a ground element. The ground is a little bit clunky and definitely shows its age, but compared to a lot of other strategy games, the space element is unlike anything else I've ever played. It's really quite unique, and it still holds up pretty well today, or at least I think so, and I think a lot of people out there would probably agree with that sentiment. And like I say, it's just been kept alive with such a fantastic modding community. Obviously, with that original focus of Empire vs Rebels, there's a couple of fantastic mods out there. One that is Republic versus Separatists, which is probably one of my favourite mods because that's my favourite era of Star Wars. There's a fantastic Empire vs Rebels sort of remake, which adds in a lot of new units from the current canon as well as the Legends stuff. Very cool, very well detailed, very highly detailed models. It looks amazing, mind-blowing for the age of the game. And then the other one that I find quite interesting is a post-Galactic Civil War mod based on all of the Legend stuff, which adds in so many new units and some new mechanics and really kind of regenerates the game. It gives you a whole new experience with loads of different things that the game just didn't introduce. But honestly, the modding community is what kept that game alive. And like I say, I've heard people talk about it for a while. We would love a new one that incorporates some of these things that people have brought to it and shown just what the game can handle, I guess. I as you can tell, I'm very excited by the idea of a new Empire at War.
Now, I'm not much of a strategy game person, not really. I've dabbled into Civ 5 and Civ 6. Surprisingly, I've enjoyed it. It's not the sort of game that I would normally play, but I don't even know how I got both games. They might have been free or something, or might have been given away or whatever. And I tried it, and I really enjoyed it, and then I was obsessed and put so many hours into Civ 6, and all my friends were like, what's gone over you, because you don't usually go for strategy games. And I haven't played Empire War. It's not my sort of game or strategy games, as I've said, but if a new RTS Star Wars game come out, I would probably buy it just to see how I did. I don't have a problem with them. I have the same problem with them as MMOs. It's the reason why I don't play Star Wars The Old Republic from BioWare. I feel that there's too many controls to handle, too many things to manage, and I like focusing on one thing at a time. That multitasking thing that you do in a strategy game, I just can't get my head around it, and I will end up focusing on one thing and then forget about something else that would be really, really important, and then that's where it all just falls down. Like, Discord was giving away 2 months of Game Pass Ultimate, which I have at the moment, so I've got a bunch of all the Game Pass games, and thankfully Hearts of Iron 4 was on there for the last 2 days, so I thought I'd download it and have a go, because my friend, one of my friends who I've gamed with in the past, he loves that game. He loves it. And I got on it and I was like, I am so overwhelmed. There's so much stuff. I would like to enjoy this game, but I just can't.
Now, Tom, I never said I was good at strategy games. I just said I enjoyed them.
Yeah, okay.
If you don't think I get my arse handed to me in every game that I play, you are very much mistaken, my friend. I am not good at these games, but boy, do I love them.
Yeah. I mean,
no,
that's to say with every game. I think we both enjoy them.
That's true.
That is true. It's just that our skill isn't. We just need new skill, man. I mean, sim racing is a bit different. I'm just a bit slower, but I still enjoy the hell out of it. So when it comes to sim racing, it's a similar thing, because you see these lap times from all these aliens, and you're thinking, how the hell do they push the car that fast around that track?
Mate.
But then, like,
turn on auto steer.
And then, you know, you realise, because I found a tweet the other day saying, I know I'm going a bit of a tangent here, but, like, I found a tweet a few weeks ago saying, you know, it's okay to be slow and enjoy sim racing, because it absolutely is, because it's so enjoyable. You know, I've put 400 hours into ACC. It's my most played, because I love GT3 cars, man, and they're just brilliant. Yeah. Anyway, back to the topic at hand.
I mean, on the subject of bringing it back, I know you said that you haven't played Empire at War.
No.
I've said a couple of times I'm going to stream it at some point. I'm waiting to finish my current playthrough of Jedi Survivor. But once I finish that, I am going to do a playthrough. I think a playthrough of the 3 Empire at War mods that I mentioned, because I'd like to do like a timeline progression, and I think that could be cool to play through on those. Anyways, obviously I'm going to recommend you check that out to see what the game plays like. Yeah. But I would totally recommend you give it a go. Absolutely. Just for the experience. It's like I say, nothing I've ever played comes close to it, so definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, because usually when I watch somebody play something, like if it is a decent game, it will be, well, not even a decent game. It's sometimes when I watch something, I think, I don't want to watch this person play it. I want to play it right now, but I don't have any money. No. So I'm going to continue watching you. So hopefully that I'll have that reaction. You know, I've had that reaction before. For example, Motorsport Manager.
Okay.
Was that's a strategy game, technically. It's just not your normal one. You're just managing a team that... Yeah. You know, you've got AI drivers that goes around. You manage the race strategy, the tyres, when to pit, all your drivers, your staff, the money, all that kind of stuff. It's a different kind of strategy game, but it's a management. I love the management sims. I love those. In fact, when F1 2023, I'm not a huge F1 fan. I like it. It's all right. I don't religiously watch it like everybody else because I watch British GT. But I played the game when it was free for a while, and I did enjoy it. It was made by the same developers that made Motorsport Manager, and that's not been updated or done anything with for years. But it's still pretty good. In fact, talking of F1 Manager, they have announced that there's going to be a new one this year for F1 Manager 2023, because they first made one last year for the first installation, and it obviously was doing quite well, and they're doing another one. So that's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yes. So this conversation has spiraled from a tweet that happened on Star Wars Day, May the 4th, by Josh West. And he tweeted saying, I was able to squeeze Empire at War into our ranking of the best Star Wars games. The RTS is somehow 16 years old, and I'd love to see a sequel from Blackbird or Relic. How do we make this happen? And this relatively accurate insider, Andy Robinson, replying to this tweet saying, I imagine you won't have to wait much longer for a Star Wars RTS from a big name developer. So this gets everybody excited, thinking, who? So Josh West replies to this and says, do you know what? I completely forgot about that one in production. Bit, reaction, and respawn, right? And then Andy Robinson replies saying, the one I was thinking of hasn't been announced. Winky face. Do you know what that means? There's not just going to be one Star Wars RTS game coming out. There is potentially going to be 2 coming out from 2 different developers.
An unannounced one as well.
Yes.
Oh.
Now,
my excitement just went to 11.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously EA have had exclusive rights to Star Wars, but that's now ending, as we know, because we've got something from Ubisoft coming, and that they're doing an open world thing, and there's some other developers. I think Respawn's working on something, I think, as well. So that is kind of exciting.
Actually,
and I think.
Sorry, it's funny. It's funny that they've mentioned the Bit Reactor and Respawn one, because I remember when that was announced, or it was announced that they were working on a Star Wars RTS.
Yeah.
I remember all the rumor mills came out going, "Oh, what if it's a new Empire at War?"
Yeah.
Obviously, completely different studio, which is why people have probably now gone, it's probably not going to be that. But what if we called it without even knowing that we called it? Like, I honestly, I'm pumped.
Yeah. I mean, the studio that made Empire at War even pitched sequels to Electronic Arts in the past, but EA were like, nah. So that was a bit of a shame. So obviously, as you mentioned, the only thing that you've had is the mods to keep it alive.
Yeah.
I mean, that's happened before when it comes to EA. We know that DICE, amazing studio DICE that make Battlefield and Star Wars Battlefront, pitched Star Wars Battlefront 3, and EA said, nah. DICE want to make it, but because DICE are an EA studio, if they don't make the go-ahead, they can't make it, which is a real shame, because I think the lessons they learned from Star Wars Battlefront 2 would be reflected over to this. Obviously, if someone mentions, but the latest Battlefield flopped, yes it did. I'm a massive Battlefield fan. I've hardly been on the game, maybe 20 hours or so, which is relatively low in comparison to the other ones, but I think they were trying to just do something new there. I don't think they would do something like that with Star Wars Battlefront franchise, and they know what they're doing with that because everybody now loves that game despite there being a slightly lower player base now.
I don't. I know we've been over this, but I don't. Right, guys, for those of you listening that aren't aware, I've talked about this many times on the stream and things before, or on my stream, I should say. EA Front left a sour taste in my mouth, and EA, if you happen to be listening, which is unlikely, but I'll keep my fingers crossed. That's nothing against you guys. It's my theory is that they obviously took the Battlefront name and they went, let's try and use that to drum up the hype. But then they created a game that was so different to the original Star Wars Battlefronts, and that's what kind of put me off of it. As a game in its own right, both Star Wars Battlefront and Star Wars Battlefront 2 from EA, they're good games, and there's nothing wrong with them. Or I don't think there's anything really wrong with them. It's just the fact that they named it Battlefront and then it wasn't like classic Battlefront. And I know that I'm looking at that through the rose-tinted glasses of nostalgia, but it kind of ruined that experience for me because I was expecting something like that. And then obviously it just wasn't. It was, I think at the time I commented saying it's just Battlefield reskinned. Which, again, there's nothing wrong with that. I like a bit of Battlefield. I used to enjoy Battlefield. But it wasn't what I was expecting going into it. And yeah, it kind of just put me off in the end. Which is a shame. It could have been a good game.
Battlefield, to me, obviously, I love it to pieces. I've played it since Battlefield 3. And, you know, I had a different lens going in to Star Wars Battlefront. I think because I played quite a lot of Battlefield is what I was meant to say. I'm getting the two confused because they're so similar names.
There's two battles in this conversation that are not related.
Because I enjoy that, I quite like that hybrid merge because I was used to how EA were doing things at the time from Battlefield, so I had a very smooth transition over from playing Battlefield over to playing Battlefront from EA, so I liked it because it's Battlefield, but it's in the Star Wars universe. I didn't think of it was too much of a reskin. I see where you're coming from, but because I had that exposure to recent Battlefields and how they were working and how they kind of felt it was still in the Star Wars universe. It didn't feel like it was Battlefield, but it did have the Battlefield elements of combat.
Yeah.
But I still enjoyed it because I liked that hybrid. I like things when they hybrid up, and I thought it was really cool. And it was a shame that, you know, they didn't really do much with the first one, but they absolutely smashed the second one as soon as they yeeted those loot boxes into existence.
Yeah, I don't think I played it that long I heard about it, but I don't think I played it that long to actually benefit from that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, I realise I've absolutely done this to myself. Like, it's not on the developers other than obviously utilising the name, and that's probably me tinfoil hatting for a moment there. But it's yeah, I just couldn't get past it, and I realised that's totally me doing that to myself. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I blocked myself basically.
While we're on the Star Wars talk, shall we talk about Star Wars Jedi Survivor? Now,
Game of the year.
Now, I'm not going to say any spoilers because I, as you know, have completed Jedi Survivor ahead of Joe.
I have not.
Because
I'm still playing.
Because I stream a little bit more than Joe does.
I'm also really bad at the game, but we won't focus on it.
I'm also very bad at the game. You can ask Jay. He needs therapy. I am nicknamed the Bottomless Pit Inspector for a reason, because I keep falling to my death. Anyway, how are we finding it so far, Joe?
Honestly, I love it. So I said when I originally played Fallen Order, and I said it again on my replay of that in the lead up to Survivor, that was very quickly catapulted to my favourite game of all time. And so far, Survivor is surpassing it. So Survivor, yeah, that's my new favourite all-time game. Definitely takes the top spot. And I mean, I'm recommending it left, right, and centre to people. Everyone I talk to, I'm like, you've got to play it. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's so true to Star Wars. I love it. And I just fangirl at everyone. Survivor is amazing. I'm loving every second of it. I can't wait to continue exploring the story. Every little twist, every turn, it has me shocked, and I'm ready for more. I'm absorbing it.
Yeah, and you will find that there is some massive story plot twists to come that you will be shocked and in awe, and just Respawn has messed with your emotions in this one.
Oh, and, God, don't say that.
And when it's funny, when the credits scene came up, I was like, is that it? Have I finished it? No way. I wanted more.
Oh, don't say that.
And bear in mind, I think at that point I'd spent 20 hours, 21, 22 hours, something like that. That's a decent kind of time to do it in, to be fair.
Yeah, that's respectable.
Different length, but let's be honest, half of that time is me falling to my death into these bottomless pits.
I was going to say, there's only actually 10 hours of gameplay. The other 10 was spent climbing out of pits that you've fallen into.
Yeah. Now, when I play a new game, I usually go with the lowest difficulty I can possibly go, because I want to enjoy the story, but also don't make it too difficult for myself. But then I will go later on, I'll wait for a little bit, and then I'll go back to the game and I'll go at a more higher difficulty. I remember when Fallen Order came out, I don't know if you remember this, Joe, but people said Fallen Order was the Dark Souls of the Star Wars universe. So that really, all those rumors and those comments scared me, so I definitely went with the lowest difficulty, because I'm like, I've never played a Dark Souls game in my life and I know how difficult they are. So I was like, no thank you.
The death montage played in your head.
Yes. Yeah, so I did go on what was called story mode, the lowest difficulty. I have no embarrassment that I do the lowest difficulty, because it's understandable. You know, people keep saying it's the journalist mode, actually, the story mode, the lowest one.
I like that.
Yeah, which is a bit of a change, because if you didn't play Fallen Order, they've actually added a difficulty, and this is what I wanted to mention. So they added a difficulty called Story. So it now goes Story, Padawan, Jedi Knight, Jedi Master, Jedi Grandmaster. So there are 5 difficulties.
Okay.
So
I didn't notice that. That's interesting.
So they're now 5 instead of 4, because you started with Padawan, Jedi Padawan first in Fallen Order, but they've added that one. So I was expecting the same sort of difficulty on Story than on Fallen Order. So Fallen Order, Story, well, Padawan for me was decent enough. Some boss battles were frustrating because I did repeatedly die. However, story mode in Survivor, particularly Ninth Sister, incredibly annoying. In the first one, yeah, it is incredibly easy in story mode on Survivor. So much more easy than I actually should have gone for Padawan, but it was one of those things where I want to start at the bottommost difficulty and then work my way up each playthrough to, because we might not be getting another Jedi game for the next 3-4 years, you know. May as well try and maybe do a run through once or twice a year and increase that difficulty each time I do it.
Good luck.
Yeah, we'll see. So yeah, that's just something I wanted to talk about because, you know, difficulty, people do tend to judge, but it's okay to do it on the lowest difficulty because at the end of the day, we come home, we want to play some games and just chill and not get frustrated and not get annoyed. And if the lowest difficulty is your comfortable one where you just want to chill and not really care about that and have the boss battles incredibly easy like I had it, do you know what? It was fine. You know, I enjoyed it because the compensation was the fact that, you know, I'm dying a lot anyway. It's mostly because I mistime my jump. I'll tell you what the actual reason is. So I try and jump the last most possible millisecond. Now the problem with that, as you probably know, Joe, is you mistime it because when you want to jump, the game doesn't, or, you know, it's not that there's input lag with it, but it's that process in your brain thinking, I want it now, but that process of your brain's telling my thumb on my controller saying press A.
Yep.
It's too delayed where it's too late and I'm already falling to my death. Instead of being, let's be safe and be a little bit forward because I don't want to undershoot a jump if I'm going to, for example, jump onto a wall run, for example.
Yep. Absolutely
not. I don't want to undercook it, but that's why I want to go the last possible millisecond of ground that Cal is currently standing on, and that is the reason why I die so many times. Assuming it's the same with you. You want to jump as late as possible, right?
Yeah, I'd do the exact same thing. You want to extend that jump as long as you can, because I mean, certainly I found with some of the puzzles, you have to draw out the double jump or the dash or whatever it is to get to that next platform. You know, they just position it right at the edge of where you can jump to, and if you're not extending it as far as you can, you're just not going to make the jump. So, and to be fair, probably sometimes I'm misreading that and I'm trying to extend it when actually I could probably do it in half the time.
Yeah.
But anyways, you know, definitely, I'm exactly the same. I'm like, I need to make the most of this jump before I put my double jump in, because otherwise I'm going to lose distance and all this going for head. But again, you're exactly right. Between thinking I need to jump and my thumb going, oh, okay, we'll press the button, that's half a second too long. And then I miss it, or I end up falling short. And that's so many times I've done that to myself. It's funny you mentioned about the story, though, about the difficulties.
Yeah.
I'm exactly the same. Especially when I'm doing a playthrough, I like to play it on a lower difficulty setting because I'm not as interested in the challenge as much as I am just experiencing the story.
Yeah.
And I imagine you're probably the same on that.
Yeah.
You just want to experience the story and share that with people. That's what I find fun about sharing it online, whether that's streaming or videos or whatever. So yeah, playing on a lower difficulty setting gives me more freedom to, as I say, enjoy the story, react to it. When I'm sitting there going, oh my god, what has just happened? I'm not getting beat up by 15 enemies because I'm still trying to process the cutscene that I've just watched. But, you know, when I'm playing on my own or I'm playing with a friend and it's just us focusing on the game, then I'll put in a bit more challenge because that's more my time to challenge myself and experience or enjoy rather that pushback from the game, and I mean, especially in a game like this, really feel like a Jedi.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I can go up against half a dozen enemies and twirl my lightsaber around and go, yeah, what of it? Because I am a Jedi. Like, yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's a bit of me. I definitely agree with you on the story stuff. I didn't realise, talking about it, that the what is the easiest one? Story mode.
Yeah.
I didn't realise that wasn't in Fallen Order.
Yeah.
I'd completely missed that. But
also,
yeah, it's nice they've added that in though.
Yeah. Also, a thing with the difficulty, I pointed this out when I was watching one of your streams because I found a Twitter thread on how you can tell your favourite streamer what difficulty they're on. And it's actually to do with the little dots. If you've ever wondered in the lower left-hand corner what the different dots mean. So there's a dot combination. I can't remember them exactly now, but there are small little gold dots near your that display your lightsaber stance and all that kind of stuff. So there's little dot combinations, whether it's a single dot, there are 2 diagonal dots. It shows what difficulty you're on. So it's quite sneaky from the devs, but it's quite neat because I think it's more. I don't think they're trying to call out streamers for going on the lowest difficulty. I think they're more kind of, oh, we have this user UI thing in place so people watching know what difficulty you are on without having to pause the game and going into your settings. Or even yourself as the streamer, or if you're just playing by yourself, which majority of people will be doing. They won't be streaming, and they'll be like, oh, actually, what I've forgotten what difficulty I ever put it on. Oh, okay, that dot means I'm on this difficulty.
See, Tom, you're being nice about it.
I am. Yeah.
I'm going tinfoil hat again here. I apologise, podcast. I'm not like this normally. I believe that actually the developers have gone, do you know what? Timmy, who goes on the YouTubes and goes, hello, welcome to my Let's Play where I play through on Grandmaster, and he's actually got it on story mode. Just going to call him out. I think that's why they've done it. I think they're just calling people out, going, do you know what? I'm going to hold you accountable.
Yeah, but I think those people that do that, you can tell with how quickly they, the damage meters and the damage that you receive, people would be able to tell anyway with that. But yeah. Talking of Jedi Survivor, you want to talk about our favourite Ginger Man, yes?
Yes. So, it's funny you mention that actually, because I was about to say on the difficulty, I'd seen that on a YouTube short. But talking of YouTube shorts, I've also seen someone talking about the possibility of Cal Kestis in live action, which I think is a fantastic idea. We've seen obviously a couple of shows exploring that era of the Star Wars timeline between episodes 3 and 4, where especially where the Empire is still almost establishing itself. Yes, it took over what the Republic had, and it very quickly took control of what was the Separatist systems. But it's still kind of finding its feet. It's still, the transition from clones to stormtroopers, from Venator Star Destroyers to Imperial Star Destroyers. There's a big shift and a change in what we see, as well as the policy and the laws behind it. I find that a really interesting period of Star Wars. And like I say, we've seen shows exploring it, or Kenobi. I mean, looking back a little bit, we've had Rebels. We've also got Bad Batch, of course, that covers that period. I love it. We get great stories, and people have said that, what about Cal Kestis? Where would you fit him in? But it just got me thinking that that's a really cool idea, because, again, for those of you unaware, I'm sure that you know Snedden. Cal Kestis is played by Cameron Monaghan, I think it is. I may have mispronounced his name.
Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it. Probably better than my pronunciation.
But Cameron plays Cal. He does some of the motion capture. I think he might do some of the stunts as well, which is quite cool. And then obviously he does they do like the facial capture stuff as well, so that when he's talking, it's based on his actual facial movements and how he's reacting to things, which is, I mean, in itself is amazing. That we've got that technology now that we can make the characters so alive in the game.
That's the technology that's now in the majority of games now. If you see a voice actor that's been mocapped and you're thinking they look very similar, or it's very, very similar to what they actually look in real life, that's probably why, because all the all the games now use motion capture now for all the cinematics.
But so that's the other thing as well. Obviously, with that shift, as you say, characters tend to look a lot more like their voice actors now. And I don't know whether that's intentional because they can, obviously from the software with all the face tracking and everything, make it match better. Or if it's just the fact of, do you know what? This is the character that we've written. You're the person that's going to play them, and we're going to make them look like you.
I think it's also because it's easier in post, because if you have a different actor with a slightly different voice actor, the kind of facial features won't really add up. If it's different if it's something like an animation like Bad Batch, but if it's a video game, it won't really kind of add up, and it adds that identity to the voice actor because you're not just voice acting, you're actually acting now.
Yeah, that's very true. I'd not thought of that. That's a very good point. But again, it comes back to the idea that actually, I mean, Cameron Monaghan is an actor. Yeah. He has acted in, I think, TV and film. But we could see him come and play Cal in live action, which would be incredible to see. And like I say, I love stories from that period of Star Wars, so I'm absolutely here for another show or a movie or whatever from that period. But to have Cameron turn up in his poncho, because we know he loves the poncho, with his lightsaber, yes, I'm absolutely here for it. I want to see it. I don't know about you, but I'd be hyped for that.
There is a poncho in Jedi Survivor, by the way, but you've got to go and find it.
Of course there is.
As far as I know, there's only one poncho, but it's there. You're just gonna have to go out and find it.
I mean, they've got to include it. People loved it from the first game.
Yeah,
it's an iconic look. But yeah, I mean, what do you think? Live action Cal Kestis? You excited for it?
Oh yeah, 100%. It just reminds me of the. I've told you about this, where this journalist put this news article out saying, "Oh yeah, Cameron Monaghan should be playing Cal Kestis. He looks so alike," and everyone in the Star Wars community is like, "Well, that's because he actually plays him in motion capture." It's a bit of a meme, but you know, I suppose not everybody knows. Half the journalists probably aren't into Star Wars. That the outlets
they just
they
pay
go
to write about it.
They just, yeah, because it's relevant. Yeah, let's put in this new video game with Star Wars in. Star Wars is a big thing, so yeah, let's talk about it. Oh, we don't know that he's actually motion captured it.
All right, should we go on to the next thing, because I've got something cool to talk about.
Yes.
So, Tom, you'll be aware Kathleen Kennedy has been helming the Star Wars franchise since the Disney takeover or the Disney purchase.
Yes.
And while she has varying levels of involvement with various projects, she is ultimately the head honcho for all of Star Wars.
Yes.
You'll also be aware, because we've talked about it before, there are 3 new Star Wars films coming.
Mm-hmm.
We'll recover it for our listeners. There's one film coming, directed, maybe written, by James Mangold, which is going to be about the Dawn of the Jedi. The very first Jedi is what was mentioned at Celebration, which, I don't know about you, but I think that's a really cool idea, and I'd like
he's
to see that.
the same director that has directed the new Indiana Jones movie, if I'm correct.
Oh, that's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dawn of the Jedi, very first Jedi, way before the Old Republic even. I think that's quite an exciting concept. The second film that was announced is going to be directed and written, I think, again by Dave Filoni, which is focusing on, they're calling it the New Republic era. We know from Celebration it's going to be wrapping up the Mandoverse. So all those shows, Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka. It's going to wrap those up, which is sad, but it's going to be cool to see how that all sort of ties together in the end. And then the last film, and I'm scared I'm going to mispronounce the name, so forgive me.
Here we go.
Charmin Obaid Chinoy, I think. is going to be directing and possibly writing a movie that centres around Daisy Ridley's Rey. All we know is it's set, I think 15 years was said at Celebration, after The Rise of Skywalker. And it's going to be following Rey effectively rebuilding the Jedi Order or restarting the Jedi Order. And she will be sort of the Jedi Master in this film. I'm not sure yet whether she's going to be the main character or a supporting character in this, whether it's going to focus on a new protagonist. But it'll be cool to see that. A bit of a tangent, we'll come back to the main point in a moment. I've said before that I think the sequel trilogy, its downfall was that there was no consistent story throughout it. It sounds like there wasn't a lot of communication between, obviously... Oh, who was it that directed the first and the third one? His name's escaping me.
Yeah, Ryan Johnson, wasn't it?
Ryan Johnson did the middle one.
Oh, yeah. The one everybody hates, anyway.
Yeah, but anyways, him and... the name escapes me, the other director. It sounds like there wasn't a lot of communication between them.
Oh, it was Star Trek boy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's going to bug us now, isn't it?
Oh.
But yes, anyways, these two, it sounds like there wasn't a lot of communication between them.
J.J. Abrams.
That's it, J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams came out and said that he didn't like the way that Ryan Johnson took Episode 8. I think it was just like a throwaway comment, but obviously people picked it up at the time. Yeah, there wasn't consistent communication.
Mark Hamill doesn't like. I've seen the clip of.
Yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't like the way that Luke was written.
He said, "Jedis don't give up. That's not what they do."
He doesn't think that's his Luke.
I love that clip, but yeah, we should have got. We should have got a co-direction from Mark Hamill because it's his character.
He should at least be a consultant on it.
Exactly.
He's been the character for so long. He knows the ins and outs of it. But this is the thing as well, is the other point that I've talked about many times, is that there was no consistent direction on the final film where they revealed Rey's lineage. Spoiler alert for anyone that hasn't seen it yet. It's been a while. Your fault by now. Rey is a Palpatine, the daughter of a clone of Chief Palpatine, the Emperor. However, whilst they were writing, possibly whilst they were directing and filming, they changed her from originally being a Palpatine to then being a Skywalker to being Obi-Wan's daughter to back to a Palpatine, and they changed it I think a couple more times after that, all whilst they were making the film. And then right towards the end where they were like, no, actually we'll go with the Palpatine idea. It just shows that there wasn't any consistent direction or communication throughout filming that, and I think that was the downfall. Going back to my point.
Yeah, there was some concept art for the film. The final film was actually meant to be called Duel of the Fates, and there was this nice Coruscant concept art.
Yep. Yeah. A lot of ideas created and dropped. So yeah. Anyways, going back to the original point, Daisy Ridley getting a film where she gets to play Rey again. It's 15 years later. I'm hoping that she'll get a bit of a redemption from this. I think Daisy Ridley is a good actor. I think she would have done fantastically if she'd gotten some good writing and direction behind her. And she didn't have that. And I think that's what let her and the sequel trilogy as a whole down.
Yeah.
That would be cool to see.
I like her as an actor. That's the thing. And everybody hates on her. And I'm like, she's not really done anything wrong. She's just acted.
It's not her fault. It's what she gets given.
The way that she was directed, because that's all down to the director. The director directs everything that happens.
Absolutely. So. A brilliant actor, a world-class actor can only do so much with a terrible script and with terrible direction. They can only compensate for so much. So a new movie that is focused on that one focus movie, I think it will do so much more for her, for the character as well. So yeah, that's exciting. Wrapping this back into the original point, those were announced, and Kathleen Kennedy has come out and obviously given us some more details on those. And it's cool to see sort of where they're going with those, and it kind of confirms what was hinted at when it was announced at Celebration. But Kathleen has also come out and said she'd like to take a new direction with Star Wars movies. I don't know if this is going to affect the TV shows. I don't think anything has been mentioned in that regard yet, anyway.
Yeah, I think this is just for the films.
Yeah, I think it's just films, but she wants to go with a more James Bond-like experience. So I mean, I don't follow James Bond that closely, but I understand from reading up a little bit and seeing people talking about this. James Bond obviously takes a more focused approach, doing a film every few years or so, and it's bigger experience because it gives people time to miss it and then want to see the next film, and it drums up hype, and everyone gets a bit involved. Kathleen Kennedy wants to go with a similar thing with Star Wars films, so rather than having a new film every year, we'll have a new film come out every maybe 3 or 4 years, something like that. I don't think she's given that time frame, but as an example. And then again, it will be a bigger experience, a bigger event. It will draw people out to cinemas to go and experience it together and enjoy it. And it will, like I say, it just makes a big event out of the whole situation again. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I love new Star Wars content. I love seeing all the things that are coming out. If we continue to get new shows in the meantime, I think that will be okay because that will tide me over. I don't know about you.
There isn't a lot of things that I agree that Kathleen Kennedy say, but this is something that I like. A film every 3 to 4 years, because let's be honest, films kind of take a bit more effort than a TV series, I feel, from a production standpoint, because you're having to fit everything in within 2 to 3 hours. As for
yes,
a TV series, you have the creative freedom to expand it to it's maybe 6 to 10 hours over various episodes. You can fit more in a TV series. That's why there are more TV series right now over films. It's weird because I feel that I prefer films, but I also enjoy the TV just as equally now. I've kind of switched from being more of a film person to having a bit of a 50-50. But this kind of James Bond thing of every few years, I think that will increase quality because it has time for ideas to flesh out instead of the disaster that was Rise of Skywalker.
Do you know what? I find it interesting, though, you mentioned about the episodic storytelling of shows. You're right, it does get a lot more time, and I think the benefit it gets from that, I think we've talked about this before actually, the benefit it gets from that is that you get more time to explore characters and develop them and visit different areas, not just physically but within the character, so that we grow with them almost. I think it's a better medium for building a character.
But not only that, it complements the films because we get really excited because we're like, who's going to be the one thing that we're all excited and get hyped about is what character are we going to see in this series? Are we going to see this character? Are we going to see this character? It's the ultimate kind of cameo fest that it is.
Just right.
But it also gives them an excuse to maybe tie in a film to the TV series again. So it goes into that circle of a film's made. Let's do a TV series with some characters from these films and some other mediums. Let's tie that together. Oh, let's actually have a film that will tie that all together, which is what obviously Dave Filoni is going to be doing with The Mandalorian, as you've mentioned. And then it's rinse and repeat again.
Exactly what I was going to talk about.
Yeah.
Exactly what I was about to talk about.
This entire circle, and it just means we have more content coming out over long term that is good quality, because if we do have a good film every 3-4 years, then we're most likely going to have continuation of TV series. Because I don't know if you know, the Ahsoka series was nicknamed in the spreadsheet Limited Series, and then that Limited Series was removed, meaning, because it was removed from Limited Series and says Season 1. And what that basically means, for those people that don't know, is there is potential for another season of Ahsoka.
It's funny you mentioned that. So I'm
not sure if that happened the same with Kenobi or not, but I'm hoping there's going to be more.
Kenobi, no. Recently I've seen, and I can't remember where I saw it, so I can't show you. But recently I saw something where they've come out and said that unfortunately there will not be a second season of Kenobi.
Oh.
As much as we all want it to happen.
McGregor wants it, but...
Yeah, I mean, he loves it. But yeah, apparently they've said there will not be a second season of Kenobi. But it's funny you mention Ahsoka, because at Star Wars Celebration, Rosario Dawson did say, she came out on the stage and said, look, we've only done the one season. However, I'm up for more. If you guys are, keep talking about it, because it will convince them to make another season of Ahsoka, and I am ready. And we all went, sorry? Yes, we want more. We haven't seen it yet, but yes, we want more. So, yeah, let's keep shouting about it, guys. If you're a fan of Star Wars, go and tell Disney that we want Ahsoka Season 2.
We
I'm so ready for
absolutely
it.
We're preaching Season 2. We've not even seen Season 1 yet. Have you heard the rumour? The rumour that we all thought was going to be true anyway.
What rumour?
Oh, that Morrison is back as Rex. Live action.
Oh my god. Yes, I saw something about that today.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope he plays Rex. Oh my god, I'm so ready for it.
Because that would redeem him because of what he was. If you didn't know, he was waiting for a phone call to appear in the end of Mandalorian, but he never got that phone call.
Yeah.
He was waiting in New Zealand, just be like, "Where's my phone call? I want to play Boba in the end of the Mandalorian because he stole like 3 episodes of my series. I want to be involved in the Mandalorian."
I love the idea that Temuera Morrison is just sitting there going, come on, I'm ready to put the armor on. Give me my best scar.
I mean, if he gets to play a different clone, then that's great because I think he's more than capable of doing it, and I think he'll incredibly enjoy doing a slightly different vibe that is Rex.
Well, this is the thing. When he came back to play Boba in The Mandalorian, was it Season 2? Yeah, Mando Season 2. When he came back, he came out afterwards and said, look, I'm up for playing any of the clones. He said, I'm absolutely here for it. I know you guys love it. I loved it as well. I'm so ready to come back and play more. He's such a massive fan, clearly. He loves it like we do. And he's basically ready to just sell himself. He's like, yeah, do you know what? I'll do anything. You call me, I'll be there. So I've got a lot of love for Temuera Morrison. I think we all do, to be fair.
Yeah.
But obviously he played a clone trooper in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series.
Yeah.
He had a little cameo there for 30 seconds or whatever it was. But he's ready to play any of the clones. He's like, yeah, do you know what? Any clone, just throw me in and I'll do it. So absolutely, of course he's ready to play Rex. And I'd love to see his take on Rex. Obviously, Rex was a creation for the Clone Wars, voiced by D. Bradley Baker, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, D. Bradley Baker, who did a fantastic job of all the clones, but he gave them all so much personality that they felt like individual characters. And I'd love to see Temuera do a take on that. Obviously, he's done Cody, he's done Boba. They're very different, but they've got very different backgrounds. Rex is another clone. A clone that served in the Clone Wars, I should say. That would be really cool to see his take on that. Oh, I'm so excited. That's just blown my mind.
Yeah. Now, I'm gonna actually circle back to Jedi Survivor because this goes on to we're still kind of on a Star Wars theme, but we're also going to mention another game that's come out recently because we're going to talk about bad performance. We've had issues with Survivor. I've had issues basically since day one, and the vampire game Redfall and potentially I think Hogwarts as well had some performance issues, and it's becoming a more increasing thing. Which is weird because Survivor was delayed, and we thought it was for this reason to make sure it's all stable. But
I'm sure they said to optimize it, didn't they?
Yeah, it's come out. Well, this is less the console people and more the PC players like us. The PC ports have been terrible. Even some of the Sony ports from PlayStation over to PC have been terrible. But we want to play the games as much as the console players do on smooth, And I don't have a terrible PC now. Joe, you have a newer PC than mine, but mine's still pretty good. I've got an i9, I've got a 3080, so I've got an RTX ray tracing capable graphics card. I've got 32 gigs of RAM. I should be running things fine because all my other games run incredibly well, incredibly fast. And my computer's maybe 1 or 2 years old. Yours is less than a year old. At the start, you didn't have many issues, and then you were starting to have some. I had a bunch of frame rate issues, and that was basically it. I didn't really come across any glitches or bugs. It was more frame rate. It was the big issue, was the frame rate. And I had
Yeah.
ray tracing on from the get-go, because I'm used to the ray tracing ducking FPS a bit, but it didn't duck it too much to the point where it's playable for me, and it makes your game look absolutely beautiful, and it's great. But most weirdly, the holo map, where you go on your ship and you select the next planet where you're going, that had the most FPS loss that I've ever seen. It whacked me down to 30 FPS or below. It
Ooh, that's weird.
Was horrendous on the holo map. Yeah, and it's the least expected place that you'd think that's a performance issue. It's not like I was in a heavy, intense area of the game. It was on your ship on a holo map that's been there since the first game, that had zero issues with performance from my perspective.
The only thing I can think of that might have caused that, and it sounds stupid, but I mean, I'm just theorying out loud.
Yeah.
But I wonder if, rather than presenting it as a map, as like a 2D image, or in effect a 2D image, I know it's obviously.
I know it's been
3D as we see it.
updated from UI perspective, but yeah.
But I wonder if it was actually generating it, as in it's generating the room around you and then presenting that hollow projection within the room. Because I can imagine that would be quite difficult or quite taxing on system resources to render all of that, rather than rendering the map and then presenting it, as far as the game is concerned, as just a picture. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it's trying to render it as in actually, no, the whole room's there and here's the projection within the room, we're just zoomed in on it. That's a whole lot more for it to process.
Yeah. And
Well, I don't know anything about games, but I would imagine if that's how it's doing it, that might be the issue. But it's funny you've mentioned the issues, though. I didn't have issues when I started playing Jedi Survivor.
Yeah.
Although I started having some recently.
And we know
But it was-
how often they've been whacking out patches on the EA app. They've been putting one in basically almost every week to try and fix these stutters. So they've been working their asses off. But
For a while, it was pretty much every couple of days, wasn't it?
yeah, and it's not really done much, unfortunately. Because here's the thing, if you are a console player, you might be thinking, well, you know, aren't these games made on PC? Shouldn't they be optimized? The problem with PC, I wouldn't say it's a problem. Well, it is kind of. There are so many range of specs of PCs that they can get, that they can only test so many range of specs, because it could be happening on one certain CPU or CPU type. For example, what i series have you got? Have you got an i7?
No.
What have you got?
I've got an AMD chip.
Oh, right, yeah.
I forget what one it is. It's a Ryzen 7 something. But this is what I was going to mention. Someone mentioned in, I think it was in my stream chat, when I was saying about some of the issues that, not necessarily that I've been experiencing, but I've been hearing you, for example, and other people have been facing. And I was like, I haven't really experienced anything. Someone pointed out that apparently when they did the testing and the optimization, they only optimized it for AMD CPUs, not for Intel ones. And that was why it had so many issues to start with, because obviously they'd not optimized it for any Intel systems. So then obviously loads of people run Intel because that's what people are more familiar with. Generally, it's a better known brand, I think, especially to the casual player anyway.
Yeah, I would say more casual, yeah.
So people were playing on Intel chips and going, well, this is terrible. It keeps crashing. It's not rendering properly. Apparently, that was one of the reasons, and that was one of the things that they tried to patch quite early on in the release. I think they might have come out and said something about it. I'm not sure, but yeah, apparently that was one of the big issues.
Most devs usually post now. I don't know if you've noticed this. They actually post specs, not the minimum specs and the recommended, all that, not just a general one. They did this for Playground Games did this for Forza Horizon 5 when it came out. They actually did minimum recommended and high-end specs for each brand. So they did one for Intel and Nvidia, and then they did it for AMD. So they'd obviously really tested it. But my point, that is a good point, of they've maybe just tested it on AMD and not Intel, but it also might be to do with these what's called multi-thread CPUs. Yep. Obviously, an i9 and an i7 use multi-threads, which I have. An i5 doesn't. So I'm also wondering, are people with an i5 or people that aren't using multi-thread utilizing it within that CPU is having better performance. Technically, it should have better performance with multi-thread, but it doesn't. We've found over the last 5-10 or so years that sometimes when issues occur, it is because of that particular element. Just because you have the biggest CPU doesn't necessarily mean it's actually doing it efficiently.
The best for that game. Yeah.
Yeah. Because there has been times where someone has been running it on a really good PC, but on an i5 or something slightly lower, it's been completely fine. Yeah. Yeah,
it's funny you mentioned about all the different specs as well, because you're right. That's another thing that someone else pointed out to me in the stream. There's so much more. It's easy to do it for a console because all the consoles use basically the same setup. There might be a couple of different things within the generation. Like, for example, let's take the last gen. Xbox had the original Xbox One. Then they brought out the Xbox One Slim, which was a little bit different internals. Then they brought out the Xbox One S, I think it was. Which, again, slightly different internals. It's a little bit better, and so on and so forth. You had 3 or 4 different versions of the Xbox One, but there's still only 3 or 4 setups that they've got to cater for. With PC, there's thousands. Probably even more than that, because not only have you got the pre-builds that people put out, but then people go and build their own PCs. A lot of you might be familiar with that. You might have built your own PC. There's so much to prepare it for, and let's be honest, they're probably not going to think of every combination that you could possibly have.
It just reminds me of every so often, I think you know about this, Steam puts out a little survey of saying, do you want to basically put your specs into a little survey? Because Steam tend to do a specs survey every so often, where they're like, do you want to send your details to Steam? Because I think they try and optimize it for as many wide range of things and PCs as possible, and might even reflect that to the developers that want to put games on Steam and say, well, okay, this is the range that you basically have. You can't cover everything because you'd be there all day for the next century, but you can do the mass majority of popular specifications, and I think that's...
I was going to say, it must be presenting that data to at least the larger developers.
This is the lesson that we need to, have with things like, Redfall. Redfall has a slightly different issue more on console, because that game was announced on E3, I think a year or two ago, and it said it was going to be shipping with 60 FPS. The console version at launch is going to be shipped with was shipped with 30 FPS instead of 60, but it still had some technical things. I think it was a game that I was relatively interested in, but by the time it got near the time, I didn't really have the money for it. So I'm kind of glad I kind of missed that game now, because it's had some issues more than just performance as well. But I think devs need to have a survey. I'm sure they have a record of everyone playing what their specs are. If not, whack out a survey like Steam does, and have a little dialog box and say, do you want to send your specs to Respawn or whoever it is of that particular game? So next time they can have a bit more range, because I think they need to stress test the game more on more systems ranges. Yeah. Even a little bit more range than they currently have done. Yeah,
you're right. I get it. It must be a difficult task because, as we said, there's so many different combinations. But also, especially what Steam's doing, they must be able to see trends between, at the very least, you can look at, okay, this CPU with this graphics card, or this CPU with this amount of RAM, and so on and so forth. Surely it would make their job a little bit easier to go, okay, these are the general trends we're seeing. There are some outliers outside of that, but let's try and customize it to suit this, and that'll cover most systems. Yeah. It's going to reduce the number of issues. Sure, you would assume anyway. You would assume it would reduce the number of issues they're facing.
Now, these were obviously on quite recent releases, and there is another release I'm quite excited for. We're going to be going over some more game releases later on. However, there's one I'm particularly excited about, and that obviously was announced, I think it was last year, and it is Payday 3. Payday is a heist game where you're going to be the bad guys and you get to steal stuff. And you can go loud, so you can shoot the place up, or you can be stealthy, and that's my preferred method. but is sometimes incredibly difficult. But it is absolutely fun. The co-op element is also great. Modders have kept it alive, particularly with Wolf HUD, which is an enhanced HUD that even the devs support. You can,
Okay.
So it's more UI little things, because usually when you have to pick locks, you have to hold down F. Wolf HUD, you just need to tap it, so it's a lot easier.
Oh, okay.
Particularly when it comes to doing deposit boxes, it is such a pain. It is such a pain because there's so many and you've got to hold down F and your finger's just hurting, and it's like, please end. So people have to spec into the skill tree of faster lockpicking and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, Payday 3 is coming this year, and I'm hoping there's going to be performance. It's all going to be all good. Now, they did it on an older... I can't remember what engine they done it on, but I don't know if you've seen gameplay screenshots at all, Joe, but it's not the prettiest of engines, let's say.
Okay.
It's quite...
Okay.
It looks dated at the moment.
Right.
But luckily, Payday 3 is going to be on the new Unreal Engine, so it is going to look amazing. So they've done a few teasers this year, and they said there's gameplay coming this summer. So I am incredibly excited to see what they're expanding onto with the Payday franchise, because they really have gone ham on the actual story of it. There's now a proper story that you can do the order of all the heists in with all the characters, and there's obviously the mini TV series as well, which is on YouTube. It's called the web series based on the Payday series, and it's quite good actually. I quite like it. In fact, that's reminded me of something. Payday is getting a film or a TV series.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
It's getting a film TV series, and some of the actors, the voice actors, are actually going to be acting in it because they have acted in the web series. So that's quite exciting.
That's quite cool.
Now, some actors, you might associate them with the first thing that you are exposed to with them. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. I would agree with that.
So, I can't pronounce his blimmin' name, but, what's he called? The name's lost my head. Bad guy in Mandalorian.
Oh, I know who you mean.
Destroys the Darksaber. What's he?
Oh, do you mean
Moff Gideon? That's right.
Giancarlo Esposito.
Yes, him. So that fella. Got there in the end. It just left my brain. So the first bit.
A brain fart sometimes.
The first piece of actual content that I was exposed to that was his work was actually in Payday 2. He is called the dentist in...
Oh, gosh.
He's called the dentist in Payday 2 because he is a dentist and he employs the Payday gang to do some heists, but then stabs them in the back, so we don't like him. But, it'll be pretty cool to see him in the film or TV series for Payday. It's in very early pre-production stages, but we know it's been confirmed by Starbreeze, which I'm really excited because I love. Although I'm more of a racing simulation guy, there is one co-op shooter that I love that is Payday 2. I have so many hours in that game, and it is so fun. There are mods, there are so many things to do in that game, and it's just a bunch of... You can just have a blast with it and just do meme builds and everything, and it's crazy. It's amazing.
Yeah, I never got around to playing Payday, but I've seen some videos and stuff. It looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah. So I'm excited when Payday 3. A few of my friends are excited when Payday 3 comes out, so that's gonna be really, really nice to get some more information on that. And when we do get information, I'll let you know in this podcast. Now we're talking about films. You're going to talk about a film now, Joe, aren't you?
I have a film. I'm very excited for this film.
You're very excited. Go on.
Look, growing up, I was a big fan of Transformers.
Yes.
I love the toys. I love the TV shows that were out at the time. I love the films that have come out. And I know they deviate a little bit from the original source material, but we won't focus on that. Transformers: Rise of the Beast is coming. It's out very soon, actually. I'm very hyped. The trailers look amazing. They've released I think they've released a couple of posters now.
Yes.
And it just looks fantastic. They've gone back to be fair, I think they did this in the last couple of films, but they've gone back to the original G1 series Optimus Prime look, which looks fantastic. I keep seeing little snippets, but I think things are getting leaked online, but it looks like it's going to be a really, really interesting story. I'm ready for it. I'm ready. It looks like it's going to be a couple of hours of a lot of fun.
I'm not a Transformers geeky geek nerd into it as much as you are, but I really do enjoy the films. Like, in fact, the last two films before these two, I hadn't seen. I had Paramount Plus for a little while I was watching a different TV series, and I thought, oh, they've got Transformers on. Let me just rewatch them all. So I rewatched them, and then there were a couple that I was like, oh, I haven't actually watched these because the ones I haven't actually watched was the ones where it was after Megan Fox and Shia were yeeted from the series. I hadn't seen the ones with Mark Wahlberg or anybody else. So I watched them for the first time this year, and they are amazing, but it's one of those things when someone gets recast or gets yeeted out with, well, it wasn't a recast, wasn't it? It's a new character, isn't it?
The story just kind of moved on, I think.
Do you know what? To me, the Transformers films isn't. I still want Megan Fox and Shia to be in it, because that's, to me, what the Transformers films, that those characters are the OG characters for me. Because I did. That's the only thing I watch when it comes to Transformers.
That's what you're used to.
Yeah. But I still enjoy them, because I think I didn't watch them originally just because it didn't have Shia, it didn't have Megan Fox in. You know, I was like, nah, it's one of these recasts. You know, when they recast Thingamabie in Marvel, Iron Man, what's he called? Second-hand man to Tony Stark. Yeah, Rhodey. When they recast him, I was thinking, oh, is it one of these again where it's a bit, oh, are we going to like this new person? I mean, I do like the new Rhodey. It's a shame that the other guy got cast out. Again, names I'm not great on.
No, that's a good with names.
No. Yeah, but I really enjoy the cinematic stuff. In fact, it was only recently where I realised there was when the first trailer for Rise of the Beast came out, I was like, what? They're doing another one? I thought they were done with Transformers. I thought they'd finished. Done. Kaboof. I thought we weren't ever going to get a new Transformers film. But here we are with Rise of the Beasts.
Tom, let's be real for a second. Hasbro is going to milk this cash cow until it runs dry.
Is it still Michael Bay, or is he done with the franchise?
I don't know, actually. Looking at this, it says it's directed by Creed 2's director Stephen Caple Jr.
Yeah, okay. So
I don't know if Michael Bay is perhaps involved as like a producer or something.
Yeah, because I thought Transformers were ending, because I think Michael Bay wasn't directing it anymore. I think that's my assumption, which isn't too bad, to be fair. If when something like that comes out, you think, oh yeah, they're not making any new films. Fine, whatever.
Yeah. No, I mean, Hasbro owns the rights to Transformers, so everything that gets put out, they get a nice little payout. But yeah, I think this is going to be a really interesting story, though. So for anyone who is clued up, people are probably more clued up than me, I should point out. I was a very casual fan of Transformers compared to probably most people. But I enjoyed Transformers. I had a lot of toys and I was very, very interested. It's going to be interesting because we're going to finally get Unicron in live action, like a full appearance of Unicron. Tom, for your benefit, Unicron is, I think a fair description is a planet eater.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like the last god Transformer wasn't enough.
Yeah, no. He's worse. He's worse.
Oh, worse?
Yeah.
Worse?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
my god.
Yeah.
Dearie me.
Yeah, Unicron is he nasty. He's bad. So yeah,
I
he's going to be
see.
the big bad. And traditionally in classic stories I've seen, he tries to eat Earth. So
Right.
yeah, I imagine that's not going to go well for us.
Okay.
Another story though that they've obviously woven into this and is given away by the name of the film is it's the Beast Bots.
Hmm.
So obviously with Transformers, we're used to them transforming into cars and trucks and planes and vehicles of many descriptions. But you have the Beast Bots who transformed into animals, very large animals, but animals nonetheless. And I think it was a separate storyline they did for a while in like comic books and things like that. There might have been a show at some point as well. I'm not quite sure, but it's interesting to see them come to live action. I've seen a lot of excitement online about them coming into live action as well. I think the Beast Bots were a well-loved storyline. It's probably a good way to put it. So yeah, there's a lot of excitement for that, and it wasn't something that I got into. So again, I don't know too much about the Beast Bots myself, but I'm interested to see how they come into live action and see.
They do look very good though.
They do. I mean, like I say, Optimus has gone back to a very classic design,
Yeah.
and I like that. That's something that I remember from when I was younger. But the Beast Bots the ones that we've seen so far look amazing. So yeah, it will be really interesting to see more of that. I'm just really hyped for the film. It's going to be again a couple of hours of pure joy.
I mean, talking of films like this, I don't think I'll watch it. Like I said, I'll just wait because there are so many films I want to watch this year, and I don't know if I can watch them all. So there's Fast 10 that's out at the moment. I'm probably not going to be able to watch it. I know everybody hates it, but I love a bit of Fast and Furious now. It's developed its stuff into, let's be honest, it's now an action film. It's not a street racing film anymore. It's an action adventure, big Michael Bay-ist kind of, let's break physics because they don't exist sort of thing. But do you know what? Fine. So there's Fast 10. In June, we've got Indiana Jones. In July, we've got Mission Impossible Part 1. In August, we've got the Gran Turismo film. I don't know if you know about this. Gran Turismo, it has a film. It's based on a real-life story of someone going from sim racing into real-life racing.
Oh.
And it looks amazing from my perspective, and it touches on sim racing. Something that, to me, is such a niche that not lots of people know about it, and now the world gets to know about sim racing a bit more. And there are.
So I didn't know it was about Gran Turismo, but I have seen a trailer and it does look good.
Yeah, and you know, I've not played Gran Turismo. It's the whole point. I bought this PlayStation actually because I wanted to play Gran Turismo finally, because you know I love my racing games, and I watch it online and thinking, I want to play that game. You know, when I said earlier,
that's a bit of me.
Earlier in the other podcast where I'm watching something, I'm like, I want to play it. Yeah, that was one of those things. But yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, you know, we've seen it all before. James Baldwin, I'm going to mention, for those people that sim race, you know exactly who he is. He's British. He is the world's fastest gamer a few years ago, and because he was world's fastest gamer, he won to be able to be in the real life British GT for one season. So he was in the real life British GT in the RGN Team Rocket, I think it is, not the Pokemon. Okay, don't go there. This is the team that was set up by Jensen Button. Obviously, famous F1 driver. Yeah, everybody should know about him, or
I do
know his name. Yes, so he's set up that GT3 team. It's not in this season of GT3 actually. I don't know where they've gone actually, but yeah, James Baldwin, he's delving into esports and real life, and he wants to do real life, but it is incredibly difficult because if you don't have the money or the sponsors, you just can't race. Unfortunately, that's why he has why he has a funding page. The one opportunity that he had, you know, was with that season of he did some stuff in Spa as well in his McLaren 720S as well. He's now, though, in terms of an esports team, he's now in the Mercedes esports team, so he competes that way, which is, it's easier to compete in esports than it is in real life because you don't need as much money, basically. So yeah, but that's all the films that I'm kind of looking forward to, and I didn't even think of Transformers, and it's another one, but I think I might wait on that one. It's the same. I wanted to watch John Wick, but I've just that's passed and gone, and I'll just wait for it to come on digital. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know that many films that I want to see this year. There'll probably be things that come up, and I'm like, actually, yeah, I want to go see that.
Yeah.
But Transformers is definitely, I think, one that has really stood out for me, and I'm probably gonna go and enjoy it in the cinema. It's such a different experience going and seeing it at the cinemas. But yeah, I'm gonna move things on because I've got something else to talk about. Many of you listening probably already use Discord. For those of you that aren't aware, how are you here? First of all, this is definitely a different kind of podcast for you. But welcome, we accept you anyway. Discord is probably the premier communication platform at the moment, especially amongst gaming communities.
Yeah.
Whatever flavour they take. We moved from what was it, from Skype years ago.
Yeah, I went from Skype over to Discord, yeah.
Probably 8 or 9 years ago that we switched over. Yeah, Discord is the premier platform, but it's quite self-enclosed, I think is probably the best way to put it.
In fact, if I press on my name here, I can actually tell you I joined Discord on March 7th, 2016. There we go. That's when I
joined September 18th, 2015.
Nice.
So, not long after I started streaming, basically. Discord has massively grown. And it's I mean, certainly for my stream, I use it as a way to interact with my community. I'm not very good at social media, but Discord I love. It's just so easy to use, and it just helps me to connect with people. So yeah, Discord is making quite a large change. The way they currently administer their accounts, or work their accounts rather, is you have a name you set for yourself, and then you have a unique number. So Discord has said their usernames are case sensitive, icon sensitive, so on and so forth. So you could have Joe as all lowercase, you could have it as capital J-O-E, you could have lowercase Joe, capital O, lowercase e, so on and so forth. Any combination you can think of, all of those would be acceptable. You then also have a unique number on the end, which again can match any one of those usernames. So you could have 1, 2, 3, 4 for any one of those usernames that I've just mentioned. And it will consider each of those a unique username.
I think the great thing about this is because if you have the same name as somebody else, you can still have your name on Discord because you've got that number.
Yes.
But that's the big advantage that I prefer, because it means, I know Maverick is actually taken. Every time I try and sign up with someone, I type in Maverick, it's taken, so I have to do something like, I usually go with Maverick RNG or something like that.
Yeah. So this is the way it's worked for the last 8 years or so.
Yeah, something like that.
It's worked fine up until now, but obviously, as we said, Discord is the premier communication platform for gaming and many other communities as well, to be fair. And obviously, with that, it's growing and it's expanding, and so is its user base. And what Discord have come out and said is that they're finding that actually it's hard to maintain that log of users, and they're starting to encounter issues, which it seems people or I see people saying that it feels like a bit of a shaky argument to base that on, but it is what it is, right? That's the argument that they're making at the moment. So the switch that they're making, the change that they're making to usernames and account, is that rather than that name and unique number, you will instead have a account handle, I guess is the right word, much like, say, Twitter, for example. You'll have your at whatever, so let's take mine for example, at FamilarForce, and then you can have a display name over that you can change and you can swap around. Discord is going to be employing that same thing, so you will have an account user handle, which will be whatever you choose it to be, which will be unique to you alone. It's not case sensitive, so it will be truly unique, just like it is on Twitter. And then you will have your, as we say, your display name, which is what you'll be able to present to people. The one thing I'm not sure about with this change, obviously you will have your new display name once the change is live. I don't know whether you will still have a separate server specific or an option for a server specific display name? Because that's something you can do at the moment. You can choose to set a specific name in a Discord server.
I think that's a bit different because that's what's called a nickname in each server. I think that's going to stay. I think it's your original name because you'll have people can set, and admins can set a nickname for individual people or yourself if that's allowed in all the settings that the server owners set up. But it will still connect to your original name. So I think that's
right. Okay. That's good. I mean, that's good because we've still got that functionality. Because I know communities tend to make use of that feature. I mean, certainly communities we've been in, you tend to have a nickname themed around whatever the theme of the community is. Sometimes you might just do it for the fun of giving someone a silly name. I've seen plenty of those on Discord as well. So it's good that that's staying. But yeah, it seems to be, at least from what I'm seeing, it seems to be a bit of a controversial change. Like I said before, it feels like, or people are saying that it feels like the reason they're giving is quite a shaky argument. It doesn't really feel like the argument they're giving is really based in reality, let's say. It seems to be kind of a forced change rather than a necessary change. I don't know how you feel. I mean, I know you said that there's obviously a concern that you'll end up losing the Maverick name. Yeah,
I prefer the number thing because it means I can still have Maverick and that's my number. I think Battle.net still does it with Blizzard, but yeah, I'm not a fan of it. But you know, it is what it is. I haven't had my notification yet, and I had my account in 2016. If you haven't had yours, because you'll be before me. You haven't had yours,
I don't think I've seen anything come through. No. I've seen the warning come through on Discord that they're going to be changing it. But no, it's not prompted me to update mine yet, so I can only assume it's still not live.
So they're gradually rolling out as of right now. It's a thing that's happening right now. The earlier that you've created your account, the earlier you'll have that notification through the app, and it will say, "Yeah, you now can change your name on Discord," and then that's that.
Yeah.
So it's basically first come, first serve. The longer you're with Discord, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I did imagine that I would get it fairly early, because not that I intended to pick it up or anything, but I was quite an early adopter of Discord. A community I was in at the time decided to move everything from Skype, and they went, if you don't move, you just won't keep up with the community. Bye. So obviously we all moved over very quickly. We picked up Discord straight away, whilst it was still kind of in its fledgling weeks and months. I don't actually know what day it launched, but yeah, I imagine I'll be one of the early ones to get it because, like I said, I've got a very old account. But like I said, I mean, I'd definitely appreciate hearing from you guys if you ever want to reach out to us. What do you think about the changes? I've got quite a unique username anyway, I think, so I might get away with it. But we'll see. I feel like a lot of people are probably going to be hit hard by this change.
Me not so much. You know, there's Rainbow Six Siege Operator Maverick. There is Top Gun Maverick. So it's not really related to that. It's actually related to a cat called Maverick that we used to have. He unfortunately died a few years ago, and I kind of utilised it from that. The ironic thing is my mum and dad named it Maverick because they liked Top Gun, actually, and he was literally a bit of a maverick. The definition of maverick. The cat was a bit of a maverick around the house, so that's why he was called that. So I suppose it was a little bit to do with Top Gun, but at the time, I mean, I still haven't watched either Top Guns, by the way. I'm very embarrassed to admit. They're on a shelf on the DVD shelf behind me, and I still haven't picked them up and watched them. It's my mum and dad's favourite film as well, which makes them very, very sad. Anyway, we're going to go through some game releases, some big releases that may have already been released. We're kind of going to go this month and a little bit of June, so a bit of May and June. So we've picked out some games that we would be interested in. That's our sort of game, as well as the more big releases that a lot of you will also probably enjoy as well. So first of all is Subway Sim Hamburg, another German-related simulator on tracks, but it's Subway, so you're not going to be really seeing much of daylight anyway. That's coming
Hope you
out
enjoyed Darkness.
on the 16th of May, so it's already out. You're utilising the Type DT5 for those train nerds out there. It has a total of 20.7 kilometre routes, 25 stations. It's using Unreal Engine 5 and is fully single player. On Steam, you can order it right now. I think it's in early access. Is it in early access? I think it is. No, it's not. And it is currently £29.50p.
It's not bad. I might give that a go.
Next is... We're going to talk about this later, but Lego 2K Drive. Lego came out with a driving game, and it looks so fun. It looks amazing. 19th of May, it's already out. It's got races, minigames, single race, cup series, story mode, open world exploration, build mode, local split screen, or online multiplayer. That is a lot in that game.
It sounds quite interesting. I'm sure you'll be picking that up.
At some point, yeah, that looks amazing. I wish they'd done as much effort in that as the Lego Star Wars. This has online multiplayer. Where's our online multiplayer? Come on. Surprisingly, on the Switch, 23rd of May, it came out. Farming Sim 2023. Yeah, you can get it on the Switch. There you go.
I feel like it's going to be a stripped down version.
On the go at 2 FPS. Yes. Or it might be cloud-based. Might be a cloud-based game. You never know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
because they do a lot of that as well. There are games that go on there that you might think, that's not going to run on the Switch, but they make it a cloud game. So, yeah.
Okay.
For those that like Lord of the Rings Gollum has come out the 25th of May. I've heard some bad things about it. I've seen the apology from the developers, so another flop by the sound of it, unfortunately, but they're
excellent.
Aiming to rectify it. Railway Empire 2, 25th of May. It was the first one was free on Epic a while ago. If you've played Transport Fever, it's basically like that, but for old Steam trains. So something that you might pick up at later date, Joe.
Sounds like a bit of me.
Next is Gene Rally 2, 30th of May. At the time of the recording of this podcast, that's not quite out. It's going to be early access. And it's this kind of top-down arcade racer. It's a sequel to the 2002 classic Gene Rally. So there's your sequel. For those people that like Street Fighter, the Street Fighter 6 coming out on the 2nd of June. Elder Scrolls Online, you've got the Necrom DLC on the 5th of June. You've got Diablo 4 on the 6th of June. For you F1 Sim Racer fans, F1 23, 16th of June. Aliens, there's a new Aliens game coming out. Aliens Dark Descent on the 20th of June, and we've got Final Fantasy 16 on the 22nd of June, for those that are interested. Now, the discussion point, prices of games now, they can be quite substantial. Now, we mentioned Lego 2K Drive. Now, I want your reaction on this, Joe. So, the standard edition is $49.99.
Okay.
And their deluxe edition, which they call the Awesome Edition, is $89.99.
Ouch.
And then their Awesome Rivals Edition, which is basically the Ultimate Edition, is $104.99.
Extortionate.
Yes. So, let me just put that into perspective, everybody. Okay? You might think that's an outrageous amount of things, but what do you get with the pre-orders? So, I'll tell you. So, the pre-order, you get access to the Aqua Racer Pack, including Streetcar, Off-Road Car, Vehicle, and Boat. That's just for the Standard Edition, okay? The Awesome Edition has that, plus Year 1 Drive Pass, including Season 1, 2, 3, and 4 DLC packs, and Awesome Pizza Vehicle, 550 coins, and the Awesome Bonus Pack, which includes a Wheelie Stunt Driver minifigure, a Machio Beast Vehicle, and a Vehicle Flare. 3 days early access. And the Awesome Rivals Edition has everything that 2K, the Awesome Edition includes, plus the Rivals bonus pack, which includes the Royal Sailor, the Royal Outliner, the Royal People Rover Streetcar, the Reckless Scorpion Stunt Driver minifigure, the Lamborghini Royale, and Vehicle Flare. Worth it?
I don't think so.
Probably not.
I'm just looking at the jump from standard to awesome edition.
That's
so the year
relative...
one drive pass, the coins, and for an extra 40 quid, I'm not sure. I'm basically paying for a whole new game. Am I getting a whole new game? No. I don't feel like it. But it's interesting you've brought it up because I don't think it's just modern games.
No.
So this is something I wanted to add on, just tack on the end of this. Obviously, the price of things has gone up, and that's not just in gaming or tech. that's across the board, right? We've seen price of things increase. That's fine, but I think it applies to older things as well. So I've gotten back into Pokemon lately. I'm loving the Pokemon games. Obviously, $49.99 for a game these days is pretty much the standard that we expect. For those of you not familiar with the Pokemon games and how they work, you can trade Pokemon through from the old game to the new generation. And I recently thought it would be a fun idea for me to get the very first Pokemon I ever had, my very first starter Pokemon, and trade it all the way through to the current game. You know, to be able to take that with me and go, yeah, do you know what? This is my guy. This is my Pikachu. Just like Ash had. It wasn't a Pikachu, but, you know, same concept. But I had to look it up online. It's a bit of a convoluted process to get through. I won't go through the whole thing. One of the games you need to do it, to bring from the classic games through to current day, is Pokemon Black or Pokemon White, or Pokemon Black 2, Pokemon White 2. It's one of the games that you have to pass through to get from the Game Boy to the Switch. So then would you like to guess how much that's currently going for?
£90.
Black 2, yes. I think it's easier to get what you need in that to be able to trade it through, which is why it's more expensive. Black, I picked up a copy of that the other day. I didn't buy it. I put it down because it was way too much. $59.99.
Yeah.
So it's more than a brand new game up for pre-order. Now, I'm just going to double check because I can't remember when that came out.
The funny thing is I guessed that price and wasn't surprised at all in the prices you set, because I already know this information. I know Pokemon games are infamous for having their value just shooting up as soon as you've got. Yeah. I had Platinum, when it came out. That was my very first Pokemon game, by the way. All the way back then. And, if I try and buy a copy now, it's 90 odd quid.
Yeah,
it's
so I've just looked at Black and
money.
White. Black and White came out on the 18th of September 2010. So it's a 13-year-old game. And not only does it cost more than a new game now, but it also costs more than it would have cost originally.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. 2010, that would have been what? Probably 30, 40 quid, maybe?
This is the beauty of Nintendo games, I suppose.
Yeah, but it's mad to me that it has basically doubled in price.
It is crazy. But comparing that to 2K Drive, now when I look at the different editions, I think, is it worth it? Is it worth me purchasing that to get what that is? Yeah. No, for 2K Drive. I would just get standard edition. Yeah,
no, I 100% agree with you. I feel like a lot of that, even the bonus packs, will just be stuff that comes out as DLC later on down the line.
Yeah, and it's just.
You really need it now, or can you just wait?
It's cosmetic stuff, and you don't have to pay for it. But I feel that they're trying to put stuff in these different editions where they just don't need to. I mean, look at Pokemon. You get one edition at one price. That's it, and then they add expansions down the line.
I mean, they do produce DLC for it now. I've seen that over the last couple of games. But that's more because I think that's more because of the online nature of gaming in general now. We're a lot more connected, aren't we? And it's much more the norm. So I think that's why they can get away with it. But
definitely. I don't know about you, Joe, but I think we've rambled on for long enough. We've talked about Star Wars, some gaming, some film, some tech, and obviously the latest releases. So thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much for listening to us ramble on. We are going to be doing some future podcasts, of course, roughly once a month. If you'd like to suggest anything, let us know on our socials. FamilarForce, Joe, he has his Twitter, and so do I. So you can go and follow us over on there. They will be in the description of the podcast if you want to check those out. We've also got our own YouTubes and our Twitches, which we both stream at the same time on Tuesdays for Tuesday Night Trucking over on Twitch. I, of course, will be under the name of Maverick RNG, and Joe?
Twitch.tv/FamiliarForce.
Yeah, so you can find us over on there, so make sure you're following our socials for more information about new podcast episodes, which will be broadcasted and distributed to Apple Podcasts, to Spotify, to a range of all the podcast platforms that you can imagine, from Amazon, Spotify, and we're even going to put this on YouTube as well on our own channels. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Joe, for talking as well.
Thank you for coming and chatting all things nerdy with me.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been great. And I think we'll see you guys in the next podcast. Take care.
Here on the Fandom's Edge.